Welcome back to the Future Quake Show. I am Dr. Future.
And I'm Tom Bionic.
And today it's Friday, which means it's time for...
Movie night?
No.
Rub the dog's belly?
You need to be here for rehearsal.
Okay. I know what day it is.
Tomorrow's Tremors. Or today's review of the Future's news. Time when Dr. Future gets hot under the collar with his co-host. Ladies and gentlemen, it's wonderful to be back with you. We hope you enjoyed the interview this week. And we're going to cover a number of news items right now. It just gets more and more interesting in the world, more and more confusing. And I tell you, the thing that's been on my mind lately, the more I study and the more I talk to other people, the harder it is to figure out who's really doing what, who are the good guys and bad guys.
Yeah, what the heck's going on?
I'm so thankful for... the Bible, the Word of God, is the one thing we can guarantee for sure. We know it's a sure foundation. But outside of that, it gets very difficult. And in fact, amongst a number of people, many of whom are guests on our show, people who have been very reliable, none of us sometimes can agree. Sometimes on some things.
Yeah, it's interesting how that works.
As we're getting data. So all I can suggest to you folks is stay tuned. Listen very critically. Don't take anything we say, much less anybody else, at face value. Go do your own research. We just present some information to you for consideration, stuff we think you may not be hearing about elsewhere. And we all have to do our own due diligence and be Bereans. And we appreciate feedback from all of you all. If you send us emails, that Merv will tell you about how to do that later. We need to find out some feedback from you. But we did have some interaction back on the 30th with some of our fans. Tell us about what happened.
Well, what in fact he's talking about, folks, is our documentary movie night we had down there at the Anchor Fellowship.
Down on 3rd Street?
Down on 3rd Street there. 629, I believe, is the is the address. And we had a great turnout. I don't know, what maybe 40, 50 people?
It seemed like a whole lot more than that. I mean, it was a full room.
Okay.
How many do they hold there in the church?
Oh, I think about 100.
I didn't see too many empty seats.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's be conservative and say 75.
I'd say 74 and a half.
Or 74 and a half.
Okay.
Were you responsible for the half?
It was yes, I'm 1.5. Just in girth.
Oh, I just thought you maybe, were like sawing somebody.
No. But it was a very enthusiastic audience.
Yeah.
And it was really gratifying. And I want to thank you all, fellow Futurians out there, particularly ones who had showed up.
Yeah.
That when we asked for a show of hands of people who were regular Future Quake listeners, we had a room full of hands.
Every hand went up.
And even when we asked for those who listened via WENO on the radio, we still had a whole room full of hands.
There's still quite a few hands there.
And so we were just tickled to death that we have good listeners, and that gives us encouragement and feedback, too.
Well, one of the things, too, that I thought was really great, as I can't remember if we mentioned it or not, but Chris Pinto was actually there to do question and answer after the movie.
Well, we were watching one of his very first documentaries, Megiddo 1.
We watched his documentary, and then after the thing, we took a little break, and then he got up and answered questions for an hour, And
let me just say,
very productive,
for those of you, if you consider to come to a future one of these, it is a perfect environment for watching something like a documentary. It's even though it is a church auditorium, it's not your typical kind of decorations and things. It's very bohemian feeling.
Yeah.
They have drinks and snacks and things like that there that you can get. I don't know. It's just a neat, conducive atmosphere for a group of like-minded people to get together.
The Anchor's very artistically minded church, and I thought the atmosphere went very well with the showing.
And if you're just catching this show going across the dial and you're not somebody who normally goes to a church of any type and feels uncomfortable there, I don't think you'd feel uncomfortable in the Anchor. I think you don't have to worry because you're not into that culture or things like that. You'd feel very welcome there.
They try to welcome everybody.
And they are very enthusiastically supportive of our show. In fact, I found it so neat to walk in and to see right on the walls in the main door going up in the sanctuary to see big posters for Future Quake.
It was great.
And they're beautiful. They're actually just they're really cool looking handouts, and they've passed those out everywhere. We found some things from Colette Bercu, from her ministry as well too there. But first of all, the documentary was incredibly well received.
Yes.
And then, like you said, afterwards, people had tons of questions about the documentary, or just very spiritual in nature
and
questions.
To me, that was the thing that I thought was coolest. Usually in situations like that, you'll get 2 or 3 questions, and then Chris will end up speaking. Chris or, whoever's doing the presentation will end up speaking quite a bit to kind of fill time. In this case, the whole evening was Chris answering questions after the movie.
Right,
And
right.
I was really encouraged by that. And I'll tell you what else I was encouraged by is Chris Pinto's Bible knowledge. That guy is
incredible, isn't it?
That guy's a hoss.
Hard to stomp.
Yeah.
Hard to stump.
Yeah.
And he's just such an asset here to Nashville that the Lord, in His grace, chose to send him here from Southern California recently to here. He's got a number of projects, a few things we've even been able to give a hand on, which is going to be very exciting for
that's going to be
our fellow Futurians when they see this coming out soon.
Once it's official, you'll get to see it. We'll announce it.
Plus some other things that are just slightly predate us, but there's some mind-blowing things, and we'll have Chris back on to talk about them. He is really changing the face of the discussion in so many areas in Christian talk through his work, and there's something special happening here in Nashville. I'm just convinced of it. He's sending very special people our way. We're finding convergence, and I think I felt that at the documentary night, that we're meeting like-minded people.
Very much so.
Many people of which didn't know anybody else was concerned about the same things we are, what we talk about here, and it was hard to break us up late at night because people were still talking. And
everybody wanted to talk
notes.
And discuss and fellowship.
Yeah.
And that's, I think for me, that was probably the greatest thing about it. Get together with a bunch of folks who are all sort of on the same page,
right?
But still have a bunch of different information that we can all put together and kind of come up with some sort of framework or.
And I want to thank Pastor Joshua Stump for both hosting us.
Pastor Stump and Brother Holmes there.
That's right.
Yeah, they were great.
Brother Holmes of the CAA, Christian Action Against Apathy. And we give a call out to you here. We just thank you all so much for putting that together. But the key thing is that it was such a big hit, we're going to try to make this a regular deal monthly, right?
Yeah, and that's the next big announcement. The last Saturday of every month, we're doing documentary movie night.
So it's the 27th?
I think so. I'll have to look at the calendar.
Okay. Have you picked a topic?
Yes, I believe we're actually going to do Megiddo 2.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
As much as I like Megiddo 1, I like Megiddo 2 better.
That's supposed to be even better. Yeah, and we're going to try and have Chris back.
You don't see anywhere. I mean, it's just stuff you don't see, even though Chris is right in the throes of a lot of shooting right now locally here in town with footage.
That guy's weeks must be like, he's like, oh yeah, it was really slow. I only worked like 80 hours this week.
Yeah.
I only woke up at 4 a.m. and worked till midnight.
I wish I only had 80-hour weeks on Future Quake myself.
Yeah, I know. It's tough.
But anyway, highly recommend everybody come. In fact, what I'm probably going to do is cut short my slot car race in Louisville, Kentucky.
Really?
As Dr. Future, and come back after I win that race up there. Come back and go straight to the anchor.
Cool.
Off the road and be there just in time because that's where it's at.
Yeah.
Everybody, please come. I'll try to remember to update the website to remind everybody of the date and time. So you go to futurequake.com if you need further details. Yeah. But I guess we need to go on to stories.
Yeah, I think it's news time.
How do you want to
go? You want to do Rochambeau?
What's that?
Rock, paper, scissors?
Was this a French version of what you just said?
Yeah, that's what you call it sometimes.
Rochambeau?
Yeah.
I thought that was a college football coach.
Yeah, well, it's actually a sandwich, but I didn't think
Schembechler.
I didn't think you'd get it.
Okay. Well, how many stories you got?
2.
2?
But they're kind of long.
Well, let me do a little quickie one.
You do a quick one. You get them warmed up.
People glaze over with the long ones, so be sure and be ready to skip. I put my long ones to the back.
Yeah. Well, I've sectioned it off here nicely, so it's
okay.
There's large sections we can skip over.
Here's a short one.
All right, hit us.
Third U.S. ship due in the Black Sea next week. This is from Washington, American Free Press. A third U.S. ship carrying humanitarian aid was due to arrive in Georgia next week. That's Georgia overseas. While 2 others that unloaded their aid in Batumi remain in the Black Sea, the Pentagon said Thursday. The USS Mount Whitney, flagship of the U.S. Sixth Fleet, is going to swing in Suda Bay, Crete, and pick up humanitarian supplies, and will probably not arrive before sometime next week, said Pentagon spokesman. Without naming where it's to dock. The Dallas, a U.S. Coast Guard ship, has completed its offloading of humanitarian relief supplies. Batumi has departed Batumi. They're probably very, very glad to get out of Batumi, I'm guessing. The USS Dallas is getting out, making for Dodge.
Yeah.
While 34 tons of supplies were unloaded Wednesday to date, 947 tons of humanitarian assistance have been sent to Georgia by the U.S.
I wonder how much of that humanitarian assistance includes, like, Machine guns.
I wanted to say that, but I thought you'd get after me for saying that.
How dare you say that?
I know. Exactly what I wanted to say.
Well, you know,
it just seems sort of weird. I mean, it's not been a natural disaster or anything like that for them to be sent, particularly the U.S. with all the tensions going on.
Well, and no less than the Russian Prime Minister said that they may have given military aid along with humanitarian aid, and they would, if that was confirmed, they would regard that as an act of war. Which
I wouldn't know what all they would need, because the Israeli army already gave them tons of stuff by their own admission on Debka. The Israeli army outfitted them with more weapons than they could possibly use and had 1,000 advisors on the ground. They were the ones who set up, my understanding, the actual original invasion.
Well, wasn't the prime minister, wasn't the defense minister actually an Israeli? I heard something about that.
I heard some connection about that.
Yeah, he was.
And then the prime minister was the guy who ate his tie.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I did see
ate
that.
His tie?
That was a little weird.
Yeah.
It's funny because I had a discussion
with
somebody.
Check that out, ladies and gentlemen. If you ever seen a head of state eat his tie while he's on the phone.
Type in Saakashvili eats tie, and you'll get a number of videos of him chewing on a bright red tie.
Saakashvili. How about Georgian president, if they can't spell that?
You can't spell Saakashvili?
Maybe. Moscow has charged that humanitarian aid shipments could be used to camouflage naval buildup in the Black Sea. NATO on Thursday rejected Russian charges that it was stepping up its presence in the Black Sea. NATO said there was NATO said there were 5 warships taking part in exercises in the Black Sea. They were organized before Russia's military offensive in Georgia. On Thursday, U.S. President George Bush freed up as much as $5.75 million in aid to help Georgia meet unexpected and urgent refugee and migration needs stemming from the conflict. A brief conflict erupted August 7th, and that's what all this is about. Yeah, and really got going on 8/8/08 while the Olympics were going on. So that's
interesting.
mine.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, they keep building up more and more until somebody runs into somebody or somebody inspects the wrong ship. And
yeah. Well, really, it seems to me like all that they need is the Russians to say, okay, look, we're really going to go down this road. We're going to fight a full-scale war. That's what we're going to do. They just set their minds to it.
Yeah.
Really, more than anything. Because it seems to me that the provocation is probably there.
Right.
You know, who knows?
Well, China is supporting them.
Who, the Russians?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But we have Georgia on our side, so, you know. If the guy can keep from eating his tie.
Oh, Atlanta.
No, that's...